Kevin Willard is actively negotiating, and I'm sure Mike Locksley's sitting here going, oh God, because whatever goes to Kevin Willard is going to get taken away from Mike Locksley. So that's what is interesting to me, because you and I are going to talk about the coaches that need to beat the buzzer in 2025 on the football side. And what makes this so interesting is that Kevin Willard, essentially, he's like the cabbie with the meter running. Like, until Villanova hires a coach, he can strap Maryland over a barrel for whatever he wants.
I want to get into a position of that much leverage in my life just one time.
He's just being brutally honest too. Like he told a story before their first game of like, well, somebody, and I don't, somebody teased him up for it. Like, okay, Kevin, what's an example of something you'd like Maryland to do better? And he's like, well, we were in New York for a preseason tournament. We wanted to stay an extra night. And they're like, no, we don't have enough money for that. He's like, we're in the Big Ten. How do we not have enough money? And that's the sort of thing. And he's like, okay, we gotta up the payroll. So, like, if I'm Mike Locksley, I'm watching this going, oh God, every time he wins, that's more money out of my rev share portion.
Yeah, well, I think Mike Locksley probably too has got to be okay with it.
I don't think he is. I mean, he's in a tough spot right now because when we get to our coaches who have to beat the buzzer in football, he's one of them.
Yeah, I know, but this buzzer's been 5 years no long now, though. Like, I mean, like he's kind of. This is the year that Maryland has to show a pulse. Has been like for 5 years in a row. Like, remember, like when that person asked us about Maryland football and whether they could like get to a level of relevance or contention. And I was like, yeah, but I mean, in theory, it's great. But like, we've talked about this for the last decade. And yeah, like, I don't know that it just Maryland is kind of is what it is at this point. So I don't know, like, when you say beat the buzzer, like, what is Maryland? I mean, I don't want to like undercut our next segment here, but like, it's just like, I don't even know what's even left here to root for or to
Well,
hope.
If you see Maryland's schedule this year, I believe they're the only Big Ten football program that does not play Oregon, Ohio State, or Penn State in the regular season. So you've got to make some hay on this schedule. The non-conference is Florida Atlantic, NIU, and Towson. Watch out for NIU, as Notre Dame knows. But obviously Wisconsin, Washington, Nebraska, Illinois, Michigan, those are going to be tough games. Indiana's a tough game.
Didn't Maryland like start 4-0 or 5-0 like 4 consecutive years? And then just
they scheduled for that. Yeah.
But no, there was like I remember thinking like multiple times, like, wow, if Maryland can win their first 2 Big Ten games against teams that don't look dangerous on the schedule, they'll be 7-0 and 8-0, and they'll be ready to contend. It's just like it just falls apart after week 5.
Well, and so that's. But let me ask you this, because I find this fascinating. There's a really interesting story in USA Today a couple weeks ago. So I want to ask you this. And I'm going to put you in the shoes of Kevin Willard, but I'm also going to put you in the shoes of whoever Maryland hires as its AD, because they're looking for one, because Damon Evans just left to go to SMU. So if you're Kevin Willard, who's the Maryland coach, and it seems like Villanova's interested. Villanova they play football, but they play FCS football. So they're not spending massive amounts of money on football players. So Villanova, you are going to get like 80% or 85% probably of the rev share budget. It's probably not going to be the full amount, the $20.5 million or whatever, but you're going to get a lot of money. So would you rather get 80% of, $8.5 million or $9 million, or would you rather get 10 to 15% of $20.5 million, which is what you're going to get at Maryland?
Right. Of course. You take the more. You take the bigger.
Take the Villanova, right. So that makes Maryland a much less desirable basketball job. Now, let me ask you this question, because this is what Kevin Willard's doing right now. When I say the meter's running. If you are making the decisions at Maryland right now, and again, the AD's leaving, so I don't know, maybe Scott Van Pelt is the person making the decisions right now. Would you look at the landscape and say, we're in the Sweet 16 right now. If we beat Florida this week, it means we can beat anybody who's left in this tournament. It means we can win the national championship. Do you say we're going to increase our player budget for basketball so that we have a national title contender every year? Because no matter how much we increase the one for football, we're still going to be up against Ohio State and Penn State and Michigan and Oregon in our own conference.
Yeah, I mean, that's the question, too. It's just like when you think about the way that you attack that, it's like, is it even prudent in today's world to go all in on basketball and just accept your football team stinks? Or is there just so much more money and interest in football that you always have to
But there is real money in basketball. They have an arena that they fill. Like that's not insignificant money. It's real money.
Well, the thing that I think is interesting about that is like if you ask the fans, like I'm thinking like if you ask the fans, like would you rather be pretty good at both or terrible at one and great at the other? Like what do you think fans would think? Would you rather just be 9-3 and 9-3 in football and a team that has a chance to make the Sweet 16, on most years, or would you rather be a team that can win the national championship in basketball and just be terrible at football?
I think it depends on the fan base, but I think if we're talking specifically about the Maryland fan base, they're much more used to being good at basketball than they are at football. So I would say that most of them would take the national title contender in basketball every year over the occasionally good football team.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of like reminds me of the discussion that we were having about Indiana, Andy, of like if Indiana would have advanced deeper in the playoff, or did Indiana fans enjoy their football run this year as much, if not more, than previous basketball runs? And I don't know the answer to that. Like, did they? Like, if you're an Indiana fan who goes to a basketball school, did you have more fun with the Cinderella story of football?
Mm-hmm.
Because football is different. Like, I don't know. I know there's people who disagree.
Well, and you went to a basketball school, so you're actually a good example of someone who's lived this.
Yeah. I did go to a basketball school, and people cared more about basketball there. But when Arizona football is good, it feels different than when Arizona basketball is good. But like that, the thing is that Arizona basketball is always good. So like maybe that's why. But like I do think that Tucson would get every bit as excited if their football team was like a legit playoff contender. Like I think that people care about football, but they're at a place of apathy right now. And it's like even like when you look at like what Arizona did a few years ago with Jed Fish, it's like they were really, really good, and they had a really good team nucleus. Did I say that right?
You did. Don't try to say it again.
It is
complete nutrition in a bottle. The world's #1 complete nutrition. And you got busy mornings, you got late nights, you work through lunch. Life doesn't always leave room for a balanced meal. That is where Huel comes in. You got the Huel Black Edition right here. 35 grams of protein, 27 vitamins and minerals, 7 grams of fiber in this bottle. It is a meal in a bottle, and it'll get you through to lunch. If you've got a busy day at work, you can take one with you. You have that for lunch. It's going to get you through to the end of the workday. It's fantastic. So complete meal in seconds. You just grab, sip, and go. And right now, try it for 15% off your first purchase of $75 or more with code Staples15 at Huel.com. So code Staples15 at Huel.com, or there's a link in the show description. You can click it. It'll take you right there. You get your 15% off your first purchase of $75 or more.
I'm not going to. I'm gonna go.
You're 1 for 1. You're batting 1,000.
They had this team that did they win 9 or 10 games in Jed Fish's last year there?
Yeah, 10 games.
The entire team was basically set to return, and then he left, and then it's just like, no, even when Arizona's got it rolling, they can't keep it going. And like to me, it's like I always feel like, and I don't know if this is just like extreme arrogance or what, but I feel like there are a lot of schools out there that could really be an attractive place for football. Like I look at Arizona, and I went there, and like I guess anybody who's been to Tucson knows like it's freaking awesome. Like Arizona is a great place to go.
And we've said the same thing about Maryland football, where the potential of Maryland football, if you can keep the local talent around, is very high. I mean, they're in an area that is very rich with recruits.
I don't know if it's just me because I grew up in the desert, but I think the climate that Arizona has, which is, it gets extremely hot at times, but, the mountains near resorts, and like Tucson's not the prettiest city in the world, but there are parts of Tucson that people vacation.
They're beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. And like the pool scene and like the outdoorsy stuff and like the palm trees and the sunshine every day. Like I feel like, and I didn't go to college in the Midwest, and I didn't go to college in a place that snows and rains a lot. But like, why wouldn't an athlete from the Midwest want to go to school at U of A and like be a really good football player? And like, by the way, when you're a good football player in Arizona, like you have a really good chance of, I mean, when I was in school, like Rob Gronkowski was in school. The cornerback Antoine Cason was one of the best players in college football I've ever witnessed, even to this day. Like those guys all got drafted in the first round. It's not like a place that you just go to disappear. Plus the I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but like people are attractive there. It's close to California for a recruiting footprint. I would get every 3-star offensive lineman in the city.
Well, all right. So you've solved the Arizona. Let's talk. We're talking about Maryland, though.
No, I know, but like Arizona should be not dog shit like in football, in my opinion.
But they're not consistently good, and Maryland's never consistently good. So, do you at a certain point? And so I'm making you the AD of Maryland or the AD of Arizona or the AD of we can keep going on the list. Yeah. Do you say let's just win some freaking national titles in basketball and be happy with it?
Yeah. So like Maryland is as much of a basketball school as Arizona, right? Is that a fair
Correct.
statement?
Yes.
They care more about basketball there than they do about football. So like for me, I think that like I would water the plants that are able to bloom. The thing that is sometimes I wonder about college football, and I don't want to say this about anybody, but sometimes you have to consider it. It's like when you plant a seed in a pot, if you know that seed is a dead seed, wouldn't it be annoying to keep watering it? Like, and I don't want to say that any football program's a dead seed. I would have told you that Indiana was a dead seed before last year, right?
Right.
And so, like, I'm not saying it's
and the thing is and that's what makes Maryland so interesting. Is we've talked about this. Actually, Rutgers is in this boat too, and Rutgers was pretty good at basketball this year too. But Maryland has players around. Like, if you could get the best players in a 200-mile radius to come to Maryland, you would win a lot of games. A lot of games. They get some of them, but they don't get all of them.
What's the how back in the day before the internet or before NIL, even maybe the internet's not the right word. Like a coach would say, we want to own a X mile radius.
Put a fence around. Yeah.
How long is that fence typically? Isn't it 500 miles?
It used to be like 250, and now it's 5. But now it doesn't matter. Now it doesn't matter because I was reading Steve Wiltfong's update on Jared Curtis, the number 1 QB recruit in the class of 2026. And his parents were interviewed, and they said, look, hey, we're telling him, don't worry about distance. Don't worry about being close to us. Pick the school that's best for you. And he's picking between Georgia and Oregon, and he's from Nashville. So, like, one is significantly closer than the other, and his own parents are like, don't even worry about that.
Yeah, I mean, it was like just today's day and age, it's just easy to hop on an airplane. I don't know. It's just like, you want to go to Vegas, get up at 6, you're there by 9:30, have 2 days to come up. But here's the thing, Andy, and I'm talking about Maryland and I'm talking about Arizona. I know this is a Maryland, but like Arizona is 475 miles away from LA and closer to San Diego. It's like you can say the same thing about Arizona, except Arizona has palm trees and beautiful weather. Like, I don't know what I don't like, but Maryland is
8 miles from DC and 20 miles from Baltimore, where there are tons of really good football players every year.
Yeah, I know. You're right. I mean, in theory, Maryland should have more NIL money than Tucson, right? Like, isn't that the thing?
Yeah. Oh, well, absolutely. Now, Kevin Plank, the Under Armour founder, has not been particularly big on NIL. So, like, he's not decided he wants to sugar daddy them the way Phil Knight has sugar daddied Oregon. So it doesn't quite work the same way. They don't have, and that's when we did the question a few weeks ago about Maryland football, the person asked, like, because of the Under Armour connection, does it help? It only helps if they want to write checks. So
yeah,
that's the thing. And also, we don't know how that's going to work in the rev share era. We do know that Maryland will be fully funded in the rev share era because they're a Big Ten school. They have lots of money.
It's kind of interesting because, like, Maryland will have lots of money from that, but, like, Nike's like trading at a 4 or 5 year low right now in terms of their stock
Right.
price. So they're having a rough go of it. But like Under Armour hasn't filed for bankruptcy, but I'm looking here, has faced significant financial struggles and implemented restructuring plans, including layoffs and reduction in product offerings. So like, I don't know,
and we've seen
right now to just like, you know,
we've seen it with their deals too, where they've backed out of deals with certain schools. So, but that's okay. If I'm the new AD at Maryland, if you hired me for that job, which I will take that job, you only have to pay me $1 million a year. That's, less than the usual going rate right now. College Park's wonderful. I'd love to live there for $1 million a year. I'm gonna go to Kevin Willard and be like, how much you want? How much, and not how much you want in salary. How much you want in payroll?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm going to say, because I'm going to go try to win national titles, and I'm going to try to keep the guy who can put me in a position to win national titles. Because here's the thing: Crab 5, they're really good this year. They're going to play Florida. What is the Crab 5's biggest issue? The Crab 5 is the thing, the starting 5, and they're not particularly deep at Maryland. Florida is very deep. So if Florida ends up knocking them out and it's because of the depth, Kevin Willard can just say, look, I need more because I got to go 8 deep. I can't be just 5 or 6 deep. And that's a perfectly legitimate request. The problem is there's a pot of money. It's not infinite. And if you're Mike Locksley, you're like, crap. But I want to win something. I want to be at top of mind in something. I want the free advertisement of my team playing in huge games that lots of people are watching. I want to win something. And that is one of the 2 revenue producing sports. And if I can win the national championship in a revenue sport, and I'm probably never going to win it in the other one, then I'm going to divert some money to basketball to make sure they can win it.
I'm just surprised that's your opinion, because we both are football is king people. So,
but I feel like I'm being realistic here. If I divert all the money to football, is Maryland going to be able to compete with Ohio State and Michigan and Penn State and Oregon?
No.
Then I should divert some to basketball.
No, but I do think that like it is kind of crazy that Maryland hasn't popped up with a few 10-win seasons every now and then. Like I don't think they should be like the.
They should be good. Yeah, like they're surrounded by really good players.
Have been like the glorified bye weeks for Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, and now Oregon. It's like I don't think that you see Maryland on the schedule. It's like, oh, thank God, we can take a breather here. Like that's not the way it's supposed to be. Rutgers is not like they're not supposed to, I don't know.
Here's the other piece. Here's the other piece of it, Ari. Here's the other piece of it. To do basketball like this, I do not have to take all the money away from football. I can still leave a significant chunk of money for football.